Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome to the AP Strange Show. Tonight's show is brought to you by Metapod, a podcast that reviews other podcasts that talk about TV shows that are about podcasts. By the time you're done listening to Metapod, you won't be sure what you listened to. And tonight, our guest is none other than Kay Gray, one half of the Haunted Mitten podcast, of the hosts of the Haunted Mitten podcast, that is, and co-author with her co-host Crysta K Coburn of the new book, fresh off the presses, Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends. Welcome to the show, Kay Gray.
You said it right.
What, Ypsilanti?
Yeah.
Oh. I was like, is it not pronounced K?
It's actually Koi. No, nobody pronounces Ypsilanti right. That's incredible.
How do they pronounce it?
They usually say Ypsilanti.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Because it's a Y and that gets people really confused, but
I could see that.
Yeah. Anyway, hi, thank you. You pronounced it right.
Of course. So, one of the premises for this show is third time's the charm, which is an idea that I had, which was just stupid enough to work, which is talking about the third movie in a series.
Sweet.
When I first had this idea, I talked to you about it in a Discord. So you were a natural person for me, because at the time it was just a joke. And
heck yeah.
We had chatted in a Discord, and I'm like, well, if I'm actually going to do a podcast,
well, I'm going to do it.
I should hit Kay up, because we definitely joked about it at the time. But...
Those are the best kinds of projects, though. The ones that you're like, oh, haha, wouldn't this be hilarious if we did this? And then a year later, you're like in the smack dab middle of it. And you're like, what happened?
Yeah, I think so. And like I was saying before we recorded, I think I'm at my best when I have fun, and that's the whole idea, is to have fun.
Oh,
and,
definitely.
And I hope other people have fun with me. But the other thing I want to do is interview cool people about cool stuff they do. And you also do cool stuff. So I figured that this episode is going to be a little bit of both instead of just being one or the other. We'll talk a little bit about you and the podcast and the book, and then we can talk about our third time's a charm feature movie tonight, which is Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Which, if we want to get really pedantic right away with it, it's episode 7, right? So
it's episode 6.
6.
First of all.
Right. I can do math.
No, we're not getting that pedantic with it, because I'll have to fight someone, and I don't want to do that right now.
Yeah. But it's the third one of the original trilogy. So
yes. There.
I see your dog agrees.
Yeah, she might have to go outside. Stop.
Okay.
Enough.
That's okay.
Enough. All done. She's part of this podcast too, I guess. She's part of all of our podcasts on Haunted Mitten. She's there most of the time, and a lot of times I can't edit her out because we're talking. So
so she makes work for you on the podcast.
Yay! Yeah.
Well, speaking of with the podcast, it seems like, so you're obviously with the Haunted Mitten. For people that haven't listened to it, first, shame on you. Go listen.
Shame on you for not knowing this super niche podcast.
As the name implies, you're talking about the state of Michigan.
Yes.
Ghosts
Yeah.
of Michigan, the mitten
Yeah.
shapes. Yeah. So
It's like a mitten. You put
right.
That's your hand.
Okay, but if it's a mitten, then what is the Upper Peninsula?
The other mitten. I don't know how I do this in a camera.
Oh.
But it's like
Yeah. Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
yeah.
That's gonna work great on a podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna work
visual
great.
doesn't-
An audio medium. Love it. Just trust me. It's shaped like a mitten, okay?
What Kay just showed me was amazing. It would blow your mind, and you'll never know. You'll never know
You
what it
will
was.
never know until you Google Michigan mitten ? Then you'll know.
Okay, and I think I gleaned from the show, you didn't always live in Michigan.
No, I'm actually from Los Angeles.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I
So that's
didn't move to Michigan until well into adulthood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's that seems like a world of difference there. A big change.
A culture shock for sure,
Yeah.
but in like the best way.
Weather shock too, I imagine.
Yeah, that was it's still, well, if it would actually be fall. That's my favorite part.
Oh, really? Fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me too.
Because we have one here on
Yeah.
this half of the US.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm in New England and there's nothing like fall up here. Unless we get ripped off like last year when it was just hot all fall. But
Yeah. Thanks, climate change.
R.I.P. New England autumn. But, but yeah, I mean the winters are a lot rougher there though, I think, than they are in New England. But
Oh, really? I
I
don't
would
know.
assume so. I think so.
Well, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
See previous comment on climate change.
Yeah. Exactly.
We don't get a ton of snow anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we might have a polar vortex in January, February where it gets into the negatives. But otherwise, like last winter was very worrying.
Yeah, the same here. I think perhaps me and Johnny L. Tenney should join forces and do some weather magic to restore winter.
Please, can you do it? Please. We need it.
I've had successes with weather magic, and I don't doubt that John has. So
I'm
I'll see if
sure
we could put our powers together and see if we can restore winter.
Please, I beg of you.
And then we can make like a Christmas TV special out of it.
Oh my God. See, you laugh. Write this down.
Yeah, okay. It's going in the book.
And then get in contact with Tenny and then tell him to get back to me. That would be great.
Oh, okay. No promises there. He's an elusive man, that John Tenney. So
I cannot get a hold of that man. I have tried every avenue I have, short of driving to his city and like going to all of the bars there and just being like, "Where's Tenny?"
Yeah, I'm sure they don't even know.
Probably not. Probably not. But it might be worth a shot.
Yeah. Yep. So on your show or in your book, of the ghost stories that you've collected, what do you think is like the spookiest, scariest one? Was there one that like particularly scared you, or did none of them really scare you?
That's tough because the paranormal doesn't really scare me. I'm far more afraid of people in flesh and blood than I am of the paranormal. I say that with the caveat that I probably would scream my head off if I ever actually saw the dogman.
Yeah.
I don't really want to see the dogman.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. He seems to be an angry guy, and I just don't want to be on the other end of that. That'd be great.
Well, what's weird about Dogman to me is that he is definitely intimidating.
Yeah.
And powerful, and yet has never seemed to have hurt anybody.
That's true.
Like he always stops
probably
short.
Be okay.
Right. He always seems to just stop short of actually hurting somebody, which is really weird to me. But
it's true.
But I don't know. I don't know that would factor into my mental calculus if I ran.
Yeah,
I'd
maybe
probably
not in the moment.
I'd probably be busy urinating in my pants while running away, but
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, maybe Dogman just wants a friend.
Could be, could be, or maybe he just wants like a bone, some treats. Oh, I shouldn't say that too loud with the dog laying near me.
That's fine. I got headphones on. She can't hear me.
Oh,
She can't hear
okay.
you.
I was gonna say you might know that word.
She's like, "Hey guys, I'm here in this podcast for real now."
Yeah.
Nope, she's good.
um, well, yeah, I mean, since you mentioned like the more natural aspects of it, the stories that you and Krista cover are really well researched, and I like the history element of it because you really dig into the history behind whatever is supposed to be a haunting there. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of those are just really tragic stories. Like you get into some true crime, natural disasters, animal attacks, like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. That is all Krista.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is a huge history nerd and she is a researcher just by her very nature. And so she when she wants the truth of something, she will find it. So it's really the history side is definitely all her. I'm the one that gets to yell about Bigfoot for 45 minutes and she does all the research on the tragic events like that like the woman who was attacked by her leopard. She does all of those ones.
Did the leopard eat her face?
Jury's out. I don't know.
Okay.
Or I don't remember.
I was just thinking about that the leopard eating, the face eating leopard meme. Like, who would have thought
Yep,
the face eating leopard would eat my face? Yeah.
that's true.
See, some animals are not meant to be pets. And this is
Correct.
something I've said repeatedly over the years, and I might as well put it on record on my own show. Is like a DNR order for myself. Just anybody listening, in case you're the one that's with me. If I ever have my face ripped off by a chimpanzee, I don't
Yeah.
want to come back. I don't want to come
Okay.
back. So
Okay, noted. I will write that down.
yeah,
So you foresee yourself being caught in some situation in which a chimp has the ability to rip off your face?
I do not. But if by chance that is what happens to me, just on
Okay.
the off chance,
All right.
because ever since I've learned it's a possibility.
Yeah. There's a whole documentary show about it now.
There,
Okay.
there, there was a character in that movie. Nope.
Oh,
Did you
that's
see Nope?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's based on a real thing, So
Yeah. It is true. No, chimps will rip off your face
yeah,
and your limbs and really any part of you they can reach.
yeah. But in Michigan, you got bears and wolves. I think I heard you say on one episode that like everything's bigger in Michigan. Like you got mutant animals out there.
Yeah. Well, Los Angeles coyotes are like just like small dogs that just wander your neighborhood looking for easy to prey on cats and trash.
Yeah,
Um Coyotes in Michigan are they go after horses.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
people have jobs where they actually sleep on farms or sleep. They stay on farms overnight, like especially like it's a good summer job. Um, with like rifles and things to keep coyotes from the horses. And I'm like, there is no LA coyote that would look at a horse and think tasty snack.
Yeah,
Like, it look at a cat, maybe, not a
yeah.
horse. Yeah, they're way bigger here.
Hmm.
Everything's bigger.
Well, you have more wooded areas, I imagine. But
Yeah, oh for sure. And a completely set different kind of woods too.
yeah. But and bears, do you have black bears there? Or
Black bears.
yeah.
Yeah. More so they didn't used to be in like this half of the lower peninsula very much, but because of loss of habitat and climate change and everything, they're coming further and further down from
Oh
northern
wow.
Michigan and the UP. So
Huh.
Yeah, we have bears now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got those around here, but black bears, in my experience with them, they're generally easy to manage and avoid,
Yeah.
just avoid them.
Yeah. Or
They
you
don't
just
want to
like
be,
stand up real tall and like make noise.
right. Yeah. They don't want to be bothered. They're not looking for a fight generally. So,
No.
all right. So I also wanted to, oh, yeah. So your book, Ypsilanti, I almost said Ypsilanti now because we had a
Oh no.
Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends. Yeah, you put the idea in my head.
Oh
Um,
no.
so how did the book come about?
So sometime in 2022, we got an email from Arcadia Publishing, who does all of the Haunted America line, um, asking if we wanted to write a book for them. And we said, yeah, we would be insane to turn that down.
Yeah.
So they kind of gave us free reign and just asked what we wanted to write about. And Ypsi is our adopted hometown. Crysta is actually from West Michigan, but she lives on this east side now with her husband. All of our friends are here. Like, we love this city and township. It's a city and township, but we just combined it all into one like entity for the book.
Okay.
And it was a natural choice. We didn't have to do traveling. It's very easy to go to downtown, or our second downtown, which we call Depot Town because this used to be a railroad stop.
Okay.
And ask the store owners. The research could be done at our local historical society. We didn't have to like take time off work or do anything extravagant to make the book happen.
Yeah.
So it was a really natural choice, and it turns out a good one because Ypsi is freaking haunted.
Oh, I was gonna say there must be plenty of ghosts there.
Yeah, as it turns out, yes. Yeah.
Um, so do you have any I don't want to spoil what's in the book. I actually ordered a copy. It hasn't arrived yet, but
Well, thank you.
it's on its way, I think. I think I got an email saying it was already on its way, but
Okay. It was
yeah.
back ordered from some online shops. So
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
I
So I
pre-ordered
don't
it
know
a
if it's
while
on its way.
ago, but
Oh, okay.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but so without spoiling too much, what kinds of ghosts are we looking at here?
I will say that a lot of people from history loved this city. Um, a lot of what people told us reflected each other. A lot of the stories from completely different parts of town were very similar, and it just the way people talked about the spooky happenings um, just really gave Crysta and me the feeling that Ypsi has always been loved. It's always been cherished by the people that live and work here, to the point that a lot of them wanted to keep living and working here, just in a more ethereal fashion.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. They just love the place so much they didn't want to move on, huh?
Yeah, it really feels like that with a lot of these different spirits.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds great. So,
Yeah.
so it's like southeastern Michigan.
Yeah, if we're doing the mitten,
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah. Okay.
So Detroit is here.
Right. So yeah,
We are
Detroit. If
here.
you're another visual example in the audio video.
We're a half hour outside Detroit.
Yeah, our imaginary sponsors frown on that kind of thing, but we'll let it slide this time.
By the way, it was so hard to not laugh during that. Um, I was like, Metapod, this is like a Pokemon sponsored your podcast?
Is there,
What?
Is there a Pokemon called Metapod?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, that'll throw people off. So
No, it was so good.
that's
Anyway,
gonna be a game
yeah.
for me every episode, I think, is to try to crack up the guest with my imaginary sponsor. But
You'll do it. You'll do it.
because it's gonna be a different one every time. So
Oh, good. Oh, I'm
they're
so glad.
lining up. The imaginary sponsors are lining up and knocking down my door. So
Oh, I bet. Yeah, why wouldn't they? You can't turn this deal down.
so so yeah, I mean, with Ypsilanti, but Michigan generally, it seems like there's a really long history that I think people may not realize. I certainly never really occurred to me because um, I'm one of those New Englanders that is over here. That's like, oh, everything here is the oldest in the country, but it's kind of like
Right.
people were landing in Michigan, French people and European people settling there. I mean, obviously there was indigenous people in both places
Right.
way
Yeah,
way
yeah,
before.
yeah.
The written history or the written seems more like it was more French people in
Oh, yeah.
Michigan. Yeah,
Yes.
so maybe that's why it doesn't get included in the oeuvre of American history as
Oh,
much
that's a
as
good point.
like Massachusetts Bay Colony was. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the French have been here since the early 1600s.
yeah, that's wild to me
Yeah,
because like
that's so far back.
yeah,
Take that, New England.
right. Well, and the other thing is the amount of lighthouses. Um,
Oh my God.
that was news to me listening to your show that you had the most lighthouses of any state. Is that the case
Yes.
on the
Yeah,
Great Lakes?
because we have the
Yeah,
most coastline.
yeah, that's nuts to me because
Yeah.
well, the thing about New England is each individual state is really small compared to elsewhere in
Yes,
the
that's
country.
true.
But
Yeah.
we have lighthouses up and down the Atlantic coast, and it's one of my favorite things. Like anytime I'm on a coastline, I'm like, "What's the lighthouse nearby? I got to go find it because they're always haunted."
Every time. Every time. Yeah.
Yeah, every lighthouse has a ghost story, which is amazing, and
Oh yeah.
that's no different in Michigan. I guess.
It's all the same. Yeah. I will say we will never run out of lighthouses to talk about. Like we could do an entire season on haunted lighthouses and not even come close. Um, but yeah, I mean it's two peninsulas covering three, four of the five Great Lakes. That's fine. Uh, it's fine. Um, covering four of the five Great Lakes. I should know the state that I live in.
Yeah,
And it's some of the roughest water that a ship could travel. The Straits of Mackinac, in between the two peninsulas, is the deadliest freshwater way in the world.
yeah.
Um,
There's a shocking amount of shipwrecks in the history there.
Littered.
Yeah,
the lakes are littered in
yeah,
shipwrecks. Yeah.
right.
So yeah, so we needed a lot of lighthouses, and now they're all haunted.
Yeah. So what do you think that is? Do you think it's like the isolation of lighthouse keeping life um that causes that, or
I think that's definitely a part of it. I think that it was a job that required such dedication and such immense energy that it's unsurprising to me that something that a person or many people put their hearts and souls into
right?
over decades and centuries, that energy would definitely coalesce into something.
Yeah, it's almost like it imprints there. And
Yeah,
it's for a noble cause too. I mean, you're there to
right.
save lives. Yeah. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then just the amount of people that would have to have kept the lighthouses just like in their minds because they were relied upon so heavily to keep that many people safe and that many ships from becoming those shipwrecks that It's
Oh,
just, I
right.
think it's all just stored up, and it's
Yeah, it didn't even occur to me. Like ship captains would be looking for it, you know.
yeah.
Like, um, wow. Yeah. That's
I know, it's wild. I
it's, it's a
know.
lot of stuff to think about.
It
Yeah,
is.
I
It's a
always feel
lot. I
really
know.
bad for people that are completely landlocked and don't get the lighthouse experience.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, I didn't really have it being a Pacific Coast person.
Hmm.
We didn't really have
Well, I think
too
the
many
lighthouses are more
lighthouses.
offshore there. Is that the case?
Yeah, if anything, yeah, they're definitely like more like light stations
Yeah.
than a lighthouse that would be manned, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
ones that we have here up in Maine are wild. Like, I love the Maine lighthouses. So, um, it's I'm just happy to be at one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen any ghosts there, but anytime I've been to one, it's like, yeah, there's a ghost story. Like somebody says, oh,
Always.
sometimes they see the old lighthouse keeper's dog that's been dead for 50 years running around.
Oh,
I got
I
to go
love
see
that.
this dog at one of. There's always like an older lady that would be like the housekeeper for the lighthouse keeper or something. Like
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say a decent chunk of our lighthouses here on the Great Lakes were actually run by women.
yeah,
Either the lighthouse keeper, her husband would die,
mhm,
or somebody in the family who was taking care of the lighthouse would die, and Mama would step up, and there are lots of stories of women running them for decades past, when their husband or their brother or their whatever lighthouse keeper, their father sometimes passed away.
yeah.
So
Well, I'm gonna regret bringing it
yeah.
up because I don't remember the details, but I think like the oldest lighthouse keeper in the country was like this. He was like 89 or something like that.
Oh
And she was off
gosh.
the coast, like, I think it was a Cape Cod lighthouse or something,
Okay.
and, um, and it was, like, a year or 2 ago, and she had to retire because they were closing the lighthouse down. They didn't really need it any
No. Oh.
but, something like that. I'll have to look that story up because it may when you deal with imaginary sponsors, sometimes things filter over from alternate realities, and I may
That's
not be
fair.
representing,
That's
um,
fair.
a true thing in this sphere of reality, so
So we like to tack that on with allegedly.
allegedly. Some say,
It covers so many sins.
but, like, honestly, I think more people ought to. Like, it really turns me off when somebody sends me some random YouTube video or something like that. Especially, like, it's almost like the shorter the form, the worse this is, where they're like, they have to be very declarative and confident about it, and nobody
Right.
hedges. And it's
Yeah.
like, you could consider it covering your sins or whatever, but really what it is being honest. It's
Right.
like, the legend is this. Like, you can still print the legend, but you have to say it's a legend.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
allegedly this, and then cite sources where you can, and
Yeah.
say who says that if,
Mm-hmm.
if possible.
Oh yeah.
So, and I think you guys are really good at that. So
Thank you. Again, Crysta.
yeah. Well,
She covers all her bases and makes sure that if she can't find a definitive source on something, that she's like, no, we have to throw it allegedly, or a so the tale is told, or something like that.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
had stuff that I wanted to write about for years that I just never did. Like, I never got around to it because I'm like, I can't find anything to verify this thing.
Yeah.
And it'll be like one really stupid little thing that nobody was ever going to call me out on. But I'm like, I need to be able to verify that or at least find some source before I can write this because it'll drive me
Yes.
crazy.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. I just
Yeah.
did that today. I'm working on we're doing a ghost tour for downtown Ann Arbor. So we're doing all the history and spooky stories and getting those into a script to memorize. And I was looking up um how many people died at U of M while H.H. Holmes was studying there versus the years before and the years after. And I found a list of people on some guy's blog, and I'm like, well, that's not a good enough source. I can't just take some guy's blog for truth.
Yeah.
So I spent my day at work. Please don't tell anybody. Going through U of M's what's it called, necrology file,
Wow.
looking up each like the years, and then finding out who died within the school year, and then comparing it to that guy's note. It was a thing, but I have to, because it's got to be true. It has to be legit. I'm not going to tell somebody a false story.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I am guilty of putting things on a blog, and sometimes I got really lazy about citing my sources, but I could tell you that I do find them.
You've got a list somewhere of sources, right?
Up here.
Great. Cool.
The old picture's not as reliable as it once was. I mean, I was thinking about this recently because I had to go through genealogical records to find out. Like I suspected a Jack Parsons connection to a place in my hometown.
Okay.
And as I did the genealogy and found out that it was, in fact, his family, the same Parsons.
Incredible.
And I went through like a number of steps because his father, from whom he got the name, was wealthy. So it's easier when you're dealing with a wealthy person. Usually their family is easy to track.
God,
because
yes.
they've been wealthy for generations. But
yeah.
So I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that hard, but I didn't really make notes about where I accessed this information. So I'm like, man, if I ever wanted to publish that, I'd have to go find all that again. And I remember it being really annoying.
You'd have to do all that research all over again so you could trace your steps. Oh my God. But what a cool thing to find.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
Yeah. Because I kept visiting this one site and I'm like, Parsons. I'm like, that's probably a common enough name that there's no connection.
Right.
And then kept bugging me until I looked into it. I'm like, yep, yeah, there it is.
Nice. That's awesome.
Not to plug my own stuff on my own show. That seems like a tacky thing to do, but
no,
that's
do
what
it. Go read AP Strange's blog. It's awesome. There, I did it for you.
Thanks, Kay.
You're welcome.
So where can people buy Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends?
Yep. Actually anywhere. It's like a for real published book. It's probably
just Google it, like it pops right up.
Yeah, it just is there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Having been published in like some independently published things where you actually have to go through a certain avenue in order to get my stuff. It's so nice to just be like, I don't know, Google it, you'll find it. The publisher is Arcadia Publishing, so if you do want to go straight through the publisher, that's totally cool. You can find it through them. We have a bookshop.org shop for Haunted Mitten that basically just gives us a little extra money when you buy a book through there.
Okay.
So we kind of get money from two sources, both small, but two sources. It's probably not at your local bookstore unless you are very close to this area.
Right.
But it's from Arcadia. That bookstore will know the publisher. They can get it very easily if you order it.
Right, because they do local niche, like hyper focused on an area ghost story books all over, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you can find one for anywhere.
Yeah, I have one for like Mount Desert Island up in Maine. I think is the same publisher. But it's probably way up. It's an area in Maine. I think I have one from them that's like Gettysburg. I don't know. I got like a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Around, so I definitely recognize the publisher.
I'm sure you recognize the cover.
Oh, I have a few of those.
Yeah. Everybody's cover art is relatively the same. Ours just happens to have our beloved brick dick on it because we had to. Yes, that is the Ypsilanti water tower. It is affectionately called the brick dick, and we love it very much.
Well, everywhere's got to have some strange monument.
Ours
My,
was voted the most phallic building of 2013 in the world.
nice.
Yeah.
You have that going for you.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
Yeah, in my hometown, we have a statue of a boy humping a turtle, and he's called Turtle Boy.
Cool.
That's our claim to fame in Worcester, Massachusetts. But
I feel like that tells me more about that artist than I ever needed to know, and I don't know anything about that artist. But I feel like part of his personality is in that statue.
oh, probably he killed himself while sculpting it. So
Jesus Christ.
it's actually supposed to depict a boy lifting a big snapping turtle out of the water. But of course, he has to use like his own hips as a fulcrum to lift. So
Oh my
the end
God.
result is very suggestive, and
All right.
it was a fountain originally. So it's technically called the Burnside Fountain, but
Sure it is.
I'll send
Right.
you a picture. I'll send
It's
you a picture.
great. Fantastic. Well, now I feel bad for insulting this artist too. That's
Oh
fine.
yeah. Well, I mean that's something that's something that I'd have to verify independently if I was ever going to write about it. Like I found proof that he did end his own life
Okay.
during that time, and left it unfinished. But I mean, there's like insinuations by some people that the statue started talking to him and maybe talked him into it, which is really weird.
Okay.
So
I'm not going to make any more jokes about this dead man, but I have a lot. I'm good. We're fine. I looked up a picture of it though, and yeah.
Oh, you found it, yeah. There.
All right.
There you
Well,
go.
good for at least one of them, I guess.
Yep. That's our local statue. So
Great. That's fine. Again, we have a giant brick dick, so I can't. What am I going to say about it?
yeah. Yeah. We all have those things, you know. So
Yeah, sure we do.
okay. Well, as a palate cleanser, are you ready to talk about Ewoks?
Yeah, I am. You mean my favorite characters from the Star Wars
Are they
Ridge
your favorite?
Tridge? I love Ewoks so much. I can't even tell you.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up because I'm glad I made that part of the episode title because I've already decided that that's what the episode title is: Talking Ghosts and Ewoks. But
Nope, you're good. You don't need to talk about Ewoks. You're fine.
yeah, because you know, when I suggested doing this with you, you were like, "Well, pretty much has to be Lord of the Rings or Star Wars."
I don't know that I can name the third movie in any other. I don't know if I can name movies that I've seen.
Yeah, so clearly you're not like big into going deep in the catalog of horror franchises and things like that. So
I'm actually a giant wimp for all that I love high strangeness and like
yeah,
seek it out actively. No, I'm a giant wimp. I can't watch scary movies.
right. So yeah, I mean, part of the spirit of picking the third movie is they're often terrible. So like
That's true.
that was a fun idea for me, was analyzing, and this is going to be like an ongoing thesis where we slowly over time with various guests dissect the third movie in a franchise and figure out if there's anything.
Good.
Well, I'm not really sure what we're going to figure out, but it's for science. So
Is it? Well, I guess we are kind of writing it down. We're recording it for posterity. So yeah,
yes,
it's science. Congrats.
this is data being collected for science, and the conclusions are up in the air. But so I take it you've always been a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah, Star Wars has been a part of my life since I can almost name you the day in February of when I was in second grade, which was 19. We're not going to go into that. We don't have to go into that. But it was in February of my second grade year of school, and I have not looked back since.
It was when you first saw Star Wars?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, because like we kind of mentioned at the beginning, if you're a big Star Wars fan, there's a bunch of movies that could technically be the third, but we're talking about like in order of with the initial trilogy. Because I suspect I'm
Yes.
older than you because I'm old enough to have grown up with there only being three movies, plus like an almost mythical Christmas special that nobody could ever get a hold of.
We're probably, I don't know, we're probably not terribly far off in age.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I yeah grew up with the Ridge Tridge, if you will, and the cartoon Ewok movie, if you
Oh yeah.
remember that. Yeah,
Wasn't there a live action one too though?
there were two live action ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
one
that
with
was
Wilford Brimley.
yes. See, this was my experience of Return of the Jedi as a kid, is I would get confused and I'd be watching Return of the Jedi and I'm like, where are all these moments with Ewoks that I remember? Like
Yeah,
it was kind of like a Mandela effect before that was a thing where I'm like, what?
right.
Where are all these missing Ewok scenes? I remember this happening. Like
Yeah, because there were two, like, I don't know, probably TV or like straight to, what do we have, that VHS, straight to VHS movies. Yeah,
right.
about some kids and some Ewoks and some gruff old men that show them the way. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look those up. I mean, they've got to be on Disney Plus. Uh,
Oh, I would hope so. Maybe
I forget.
not.
I don't even know what they're called, but
Oh, I can look it up. But
yeah.
my favorite movie podcast, We Hate Movies, did I think they did both of the live action Ewok ones as episodes. They basically kind of loosely go through the plot of a movie and lovingly tear it to pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of anticipated the third time's a charm going. With this one, it's a little more difficult because, I mean, I think there's a ton of Star Wars fans, at least ones that I grew up with, that couldn't stand the Ewoks. Like they felt like they kind of ruined the movie.
I feel like if you're really into Star Wars, not just like casually watching the movies, you kind of do fall into the two camps of the Ewoks ruined Return of the Jedi, or the Ewoks made Return of the Jedi way better.
Right. And you're the latter camp, obviously.
I absolutely am. I love those little guys.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, so I mean, we don't really have to go through it point by point, but
Yeah,
obviously this was, like I said, to me growing up, the end of the story.
right.
It was the completion of a story arc that started with A New Hope,
Yeah.
and yeah, um, so um, I think notable things in it is Boba Fett plays a decent role and uh, apparently dies at the beginning, right?
Right. Quote unquote dies. Yeah.
Yeah, because he gets eaten by the Sarlacc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jabba the Hutt dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And the
Carrie
best way
Fisher.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher. Princess Leia is choking him out with the chain, the
Yeah,
slave
it's
chain.
great. In a metal bikini. It's fantastic. So good.
Yeah, iconic. um, yeah. So I mean, that's the beginning. And one thing I always remember from it growing up was that Yoda dies. So Yoda dies too. This is kind of
Yeah.
like an ending of things. And
This is, yeah.
I don't know about you, but as a kid, I was always like, "Oh man!" So we got to see Yoda like train Luke, and then he goes back, and Yoda's just like already dying. Like we never got to see Yoda do stuff. Like I would have liked to see Yoda fight somebody,
Yeah.
and then we did eventually get that with the prequels, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I needed that after all."
Never mind. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah. Could have done without that. Oh well.
Okay, well, I guess I'll put it to you. What are your favorite things about the Return of the Jedi as opposed to things that make it better than the other two in the original trilogy.
Oh, yeah, because Empire Strikes Back will forever be my favorite. I
Oh
love
yeah,
a good second act because I love when everything just goes to shit.
yeah, it's such a great cliffhanger at the end.
But I love that. I mean, throughout the entire trilogy, we have seen Leia kind of take charge and um, save her own skin. But I really love that she was taken as a slave. She had to be put in this tiny little metal bikini. She was, basically, I think I think Jabba the Hutt licked her at one point. It's gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
And then she gets to take her fate into her own hands. And not only did it start with her coming in and being Han Solo's rescuer, but then she is her own rescuer.
Right.
And conversely, all of their rescuer once again, because she's the one that gets to off Jabba the Hutt. And yeah. I love her agency in all of the films, but just especially the juxtaposition of her in that outfit being super skimpy, being what I think especially at the time would take for the damsel in distress, and completely turning that on its head and just choking him out. And saving at least that portion of Tatooine that he controlled, because now he's dead. So I love that she just gets to take that into her own hands. And me as a second grader watching her do all of these kick-ass things and seeing a real role model in that, when they're in the early 90s, there wasn't a lot of stuff that I could watch as a kid that would have that in it. So especially if it was sci-fi or fantasy related.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
love that.
I never really thought about that, but she's kind of like an under the radar feminist icon, because it's a slow burn with it when you get to that. But she's the one that kicks off the whole thing, because if it wasn't for her sending the holographic message to Obi-Wan in the first one,
right,
that wouldn't have set that's what sets the wheels in motion,
Yeah. But she you get to see her. This might sound kind of crass, I don't know, but instead of just doing that sneaky behind the scenes move, or saving them by shooting out the grates to the trash compactor, she is taking some real action. You get to see her kill something on screen, and it's she's not playing a princess role. She's taken on the role that would have been saved for Han and Luke. Right. And it's incredible.
And even with the special editions, you still get to see it. So
yeah, damn right. Enough. I got a Wookiee down here making Wookiee noises.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess the Wookiee noises were based on the sound that the retriever makes. I think I saw that in a documentary once.
Oh, so, yeah.
All right. So as far as cons go, so you're pro Ewok, but are there things you don't like about Return of the Jedi that you wish were different?
I'm sure there are. Hold on. Well, like you said about Yoda, we saw him train Luke for, I mean, we don't actually know how long, but in movie time, not long at all. Right. And then, all of a sudden he's just dying, and it's we don't have an explanation. Was this supposed to happen right after Luke got trained? Because Yoda didn't want Luke to leave with incomplete training. So why is he just dying? Why don't?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is he was supposed to finish his Jedi training was not complete. So yeah, I don't know.
And that sucks that Luke has to lose 2 mentors. Like, sorry, bro.
Well, I think that is the way of life, maybe not so
Yeah.
competitively, but I think we move from mentor to mentor anyway. So maybe that's kind of the point of it. I know like George Lucas would like to get on his high horse about the hero's journey and all that other stuff, but
Yeah.
a lot of the best stuff in the Star Wars movies wasn't even written by him, right?
Pretty much.
or direct. 'Cause he didn't direct Return of the Jedi. Yeah. So
Mm-mm.
and one wonders, I mean, I think we were talking about Indiana Jones at one point and some of the like things Lucas wanted to put in the movie that talked him out of. So like one
Yeah.
wonders how he would have handled Leia in that
Not
scenario.
great.
Yeah, with his kid.
No, the one thing that I think we have learned about George Lucas is that he has to have someone out there who can tell him no.
Yeah.
Because we have now seen with the prequels what happens when he doesn't have a team around him that will tell him no.
I mean,
And
to
it's
be
fine, I
fair,
guess.
yeah, and to be fair, speaking of false dichotomies, I don't know that we were speaking of that, but I
Well,
feel like it came up earlier.
introducing.
When you talk about Star Wars versus Star Trek, like Gene Roddenberry is kind of the same way. Like Roddenberry had
Yeah.
terrible ideas sometimes. And a lot of the
Yeah.
best tech stuff came from other people working off of some of his ideas,
Yeah, for sure.
making their own thing. So the guy that gets all the credit isn't necessarily the master. Um, although I do have my theories about Lucas. I think he may secretly be tapped into manipulating reality in some ways.
Go on.
Talking about the Mandela Effect again. I did write about this at one point where I think that George Lucas doing special edition and pretty much removing access from the original it altered reality. It caused a schism in reality.
Okay, I'm with it. All right.
Yeah. So there's some people that are still living in a Han shot first universe, but we've been switched over to a Greedo shot first timeline.
No. How do we get to the other one?
I know I want to go back to Han shot first. I think it's better.
Does that change other things in the world? Like, are there some maybe political things that didn't happen
Right, yeah,
on
because
that side?
that's what caused the Mandela Effect, I'm convinced. Had you ever heard of the Mandela Effect before the special editions came out?
Probably not because I was not.
Well, had anybody?
Oh, I have no idea.
The earliest
Probably not because when do people think
I looked into it. Like it came up on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell
okay.
in the mid 90s around that time.
Yeah.
Those are the first references to it. So from a researcher named Fiona Broom. And Art Bell was among those who remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison. So
Oh my god.
there's that. I think George Lucas did it. George Lucas did the Mandela Effect.
I think you're right. No. Oh, I'm gonna have to sit. I'm gonna have to sit with that for a very long time.
Well, I'll send you a link to the thing I wrote about it in, and
Good.
you could
Thank
mull
you.
it over. But as far as okay, yeah. So this is a special case too because we do have the special edition to contend with.
That's true.
I don't really remember what gets changed in Return of the Jedi, though. I don't think there was anything huge.
I don't remember what gets changed.
But
No,
in
no, like
general,
plot
in
points.
general, I
Like,
don't think it was a good idea.
absolutely not. You know what? Me as like a youngin, being able to see Star Wars in a theater,
Yeah.
great, wonderful, sweet, fantastic. Got to have that experience.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I would have lived just fine without that experience, and it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I mean, like I think we both grew up with there would be, whenever it was on TV, you'd have these interstitial things before the commercial where they were talking about the revolutionary effects that they did and how it was
Yeah.
so different in 1977, and like the sound design, like everything about it. And then just to kind of tool around with that and tune it up in the
Yeah.
90s, it's just like it kind of seemed like it betrayed the history of the
Yeah.
cinematic art that was being used at the time. I feel like maybe if they had just kind of, I don't know, remastered it somehow, that would be fine. But kind of putting in like a CG Jabba the Hutt at Mos Eisley, like
It's yeah.
confronting Han outside the Millennium Falcon, is like, we really didn't need that. We didn't need that scene. I don't care if you already filmed it back then and never used it, but
Right. Like editing and leaving stuff on the cutting room floor is supposed to happen.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's the sign of a huge ego, is when somebody wants every little bit of something in there,
Oh
and you're
yeah.
just like, you
Yeah.
don't though. You don't. We all
You
we all
don't.
love it the way it was.
And that's when he needs that little group of people that's like, hey George, hey, no, stop it.
Okay, so as far as the entirety of the franchise goes, I mean, we can talk specifically about the original three, but since it is the third of the original three, but how do you think it stacks up? Like Return of the Jedi, in where would you rate it as one of the sequels or chapters of the story?
Oh my
You
god,
said
I don't know.
Empire was your favorite,
Empire is my favorite, but I don't. How sad. I'm gonna have to put it at the bottom, but it's not really the bottom.
right?
It's like they're all really up there, and then there's like a huge space, and then the bottom.
Well, yeah, because with the amount of movies, I don't even know how many there are now. It's nuts.
I don't know. Do we are we counting the Disney Plus stuff, or are we just
Well,
theatrical release movies?
yeah, specifically movies, theatrical release probably. Yeah,
11?
is there 11 of them? Wow. Yeah, no, it makes sense, but I still think the original three are going to be at the top, regardless of
Right. They're
right,
like all kind of really, really near first place, and then there's just a huge gap, and I guess there's everything else.
right.
But it
So
would
if you,
probably go Empire, A New Hope, and then Return of the Jedi, just because of the incredible things that A New Hope did
mhm,
for storytelling in cinema and like the notion of a blockbuster and like all of that.
yeah.
Um, so I think it has to be number 3, but it's still not really number 3.
Well, I think part of it to me is that there's a sense of finality to it. The story wraps up. Like, if A New Hope had to have been a standalone movie and it wasn't popular enough to get sequels, it still could have been
It
one
was
story.
fine. Yeah.
But it left the door open because Vader doesn't die. He gets, spinning off into space. Um, but and like Empire basically is promising another chapter of the story. And at
Yes.
the end of Return of the Jedi, you really have a feeling the story's over. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I think it has a sense of finality to it that makes it not as exciting as the other ones, because the other ones had promise of more story.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But the joke's on us because there's plenty more story, I guess.
Just kidding. You can keep watching. You may not want to, but you can. Um yeah, and I guess I'm still I don't necessarily know that we had to have a second Death Star. I'm perfectly fine with it. I
Right.
can't sitting here right now think of anything better to go in its place.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, we had a whole second one. Like the first one wasn't bad and like we did that. But it was still the fine because of the emperor being like one step above that, really. um I think it's totally fine. I don't think it needs to be, or it needed to have changed or been something worse. But it's like, oh, the Death Star, yeah, I remember that from 2 movies ago. Didn't we Did we blow that up? Did we not do that?
Well, that's the
Checking.
kind of disappointing thing when you continue the story forward. Actually, don't even know the title of the movie that directly follows Jedi in the canon chronology there. What is
Why am
that?
I blinking? I'm blinking.
I don't know. I saw it in the theater though,
Oh
because
yeah.
you get the sense that um okay, the rebels won, right? But all they
Mm-hmm.
really did was blow up the Death Star again, I guess. Or um they protected Endor, right?
Yeah. Um.
Because well, what I'm getting at is in the next movie after Jedi, it's just like, oh, they didn't really win much of anything. Like they're still like the
Right. No,
Empire
that's
is still
true.
alive and well. He didn't end the Empire, you
Right.
know.
Which is why I love the extended universe books because we get to explore that. The Force Awakens is episode 7.
Right. Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where I was going to go with that. Other than like, well, we killed the Emperor. We killed his right hand man. We killed even more head honchos that were probably on the second Death Star
Mm-hmm.
after we killed all of those dudes on the first Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
So the Empire is effectively dead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rebels don't seem to have it all that good though.
Oh, absolutely not. It
Yeah.
turns out that even that after the revolution comes a whole bunch of other crap that you have to do
Oh, yeah.
before you have like a government.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably true of all revolutions. I mean,
Yeah. And then that's where the EU came in and it was great and we loved it.
right.
And now it means nothing.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter. It's fine.
Okay. So so yeah, I mean, Return of the Jedi classic. I am kind of interested though because I haven't seen the original versions of the movie in so long. I had them on VHS and I no longer have a VCR, so I can't even watch it. But
Right.
that was the biggest annoyance to me is that like Lucas was already burying the Christmas special. He didn't want anybody to watch that, which now I think you can find it on YouTube. But
Yeah, I've seen it. I think the
terrible,
past
right?
3 Christmases in a row.
Yeah. But when he did the special edition, he just kind of like buried the original. So like I bought them on VHS because when my son was younger, I wanted him to watch the same Star Wars trilogy I watched. So
Right. Of
my,
course.
my
Yeah.
son's still on the Han shot first timeline.
Good.
So.
Good. We teach the young people.
But I think that was a really annoying thing because he had a habit of doing that, like trying to really distance himself from what he considered
Hated
failures or
that.
embarrassments. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think you should be proud of things like Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck is a masterpiece.
We can all agree. Yes.
That's why the MCU hasn't made a Howard the Duck movie because the original was perfect.
It's too good. You can't. You can't.
You can't top that. So
No. Yeah, I have back in California I have the original VHS. And then I put on a disc the despecialized editions when those came out in the
oh,
2000s sometime.
I didn't even know that.
And oh man.
They
Oh,
just they just remove it or
it's they basically took out all of the special editionized things, so it's back to the theatrical release versions.
huh.
It's on the internet.
Oh.
I think, oh my gosh, who was it? I want to say it was Topher Grace,
Mhm.
Eric Foreman from that 70s show.
Yeah.
Did something similar, in which he put on the internet, like he despecialized the copies that we can get, because we still can't get the originals. And so you can find it out there on the internet. I totally lost my disc in one of my various moves over these years, but yeah, it's out there. You can find it.
There's perfectly legal, fine ways to find files and download them.
I'm not telling you to do it. I'm saying you can.
It's a possibility.
Allegedly.
Allegedly can add this.
So it has been told.
People are saying.
Exactly. I'm just saying, it's out there on the internet. What you choose to do or not do is not something I have any control over whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, so last Star Wars related question. Have you ever seen Turkish Star Wars?
What? No.
I forget what it's actually called, but it's basically like a knockoff version that like Turkish filmmakers made of Star Wars, I think at the same time or around the same time. So this would be like late 70s, early 80s.
Star Wars.
It's ridiculous.
The Man Who Saves the World?
I think that might be right. I know I had a
it's
good
on
buddy.
YouTube.
It is, yeah. Yeah, no, I had a good buddy, my good friend Jeff, that passed away a few years ago, that he was like a huge film buff, and he loved like the weirdest, most obscure films, and he was a big fan. Like he'd bring up Star Wars, and he was one of those guys that was too cool for Star Wars. He's like, "No way, man! Turkish Star Wars is the way to go."
Oh, you like American Star Wars? Well, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's something for you. A new rabbit hole for Kay tonight.
I'm so excited. You have no idea. It's in full. It's from 1982. It's in full on YouTube.
There you go. There you go. So the same year Empire came out, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 1982. Yeah. Nice. I also have a friend who is too cool for Star Wars. He has a very casual podcast called Cinema Guano, in which we watch and discuss just like completely just batshit crazy movies. Not necessarily bad ones, just like really wild and out there and doing some wild stuff movies. And I think that he needs to see this.
He absolutely does. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. You'll have to send me a link to the podcast.
Totally.
I'm not going to remember while I'm recording here what it was called.
Nope, no problem. I'll forget to send you things too, so don't worry. Yeah.
It is the way of things. This is the way.
Yes, it is. This is the way. Speaking of Star Wars.
I've kept you probably longer than you were expecting, but it has been wonderful talking to you.
I'm glad we were able
to talk Ewoks, and joke around, and everybody listening, check out Kay's podcast. Check out the Haunted Mitten. Google Michigan Mitten ? Figure out how the Upper Peninsula fits in there.
And then you can just see somebody putting their hand up and pointing to where they live. It's great.
Yeah.
Try to do that with any other state. You can't.
You can't.
Ivy said so.
My state vaguely looks like an octopus trying to fight somebody, because it's like got the Cape Peninsula coming off like a big arm. Like it's
it kind of does. You're right. Incredible.
And check out Ypsilanti Ghosts Legends, which is available at any internet bookstore near you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank you so much, Kay. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. We hang out with me anytime.
Okay.
Come talk to me whenever. Just talk to me. Somebody talk to me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk on that. All right.
As both of my pets like swarm the computer area. Cat's over here scratching. Dog's over here woofing. They're just saying bye.
Yeah, I'm surprised my cat hasn't bugged me. She's just been quietly sleeping over here. But
Oh,
Yeah, I'll show her to you when I'm done recording. But
good.
all right. Well, great talking to you. I'll have you back at some point, and maybe we can talk
Thanks.
about Return of the King.
Oh God, are you prepared for a 4-hour podcast, my friends?
No, I'm not prepared for a 2.5-hour movie either.
Oh, that's fine. You will be.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.